Welcome to a very special episode of Cosmic Road, where we are joined once again by the one and only Kosta Makreas. Thank you for joining us, Kosta.
Thank you, Jack. It's a pleasure to be back here. From the last time that I was here, it just had fond remembrances. So thank you for inviting me back.
No, I love it, Kosta. What you're doing, and if you're not familiar with Kosta, absolutely go check out his information, his channel. He is the founder of the People's Disclosure Movement, and I really wanted to talk about an event you're having that's upcoming, if I'm understanding it correctly, on Valentine's Day, where you're having a major CE5 event, like a global CE5 event. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, it's true. The monthly events have actually been going on since 2010, and there's a whole story why they were started back then. And it's been just a real pleasure over the years, month after month, to build global CE5 contact teams and to concentrate on at least one Saturday of every month, like the one that's coming up now, February 15th, Valentine's Day, um, where our global teams kind of link together in consciousness to recognize that we're a network and that we're actually a global community, even if most of us will never meet, but we're all focused on the contact with the star people, and it's a powerful thing. If people come to etletstalk.com, you can sign up and get the newsletter, which talks about the global CE5 contact event this month and every month, and moving into the future until we have full open contact. That's the goal, to build momentum and to build a number of teams out there making the contact every month or every day, when as often as people want. But this once a month thing is just it's chosen near the new moon, where the skies are darkest. So it's a different day, it's a different Saturday every month, but I publish that in the newsletter so that people can enjoy the sky if that's how they want to make the contact. Although it's not limited to having to be outside. As you know, Jack, you can make the contact in any place that's safe for you, indoors, in your backyard, on your property by the beach, places like that. So it's a fun thing. It's all about the community and the good that we're doing, because the star people asked us in 2010 to form as many contact teams as possible in as many places as possible, as quickly as possible. And I can tell more about that backstory if your audience would like to hear about it, because it's what keeps me going. It was a great way to begin things, and here we are now, since 2010, where we're 16 years later and still making this contact daily, weekly, and monthly.
No, I think that's beautiful. And we did talk about the backstory last time, but for those who haven't checked out the last interview, can you give us a quick rundown of how you got into all this?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. A little bit about me. I'm not anybody special. I like to say that because I want to emphasize that anybody watching this can do the kind of contact that you'll hear me talking about. And my story is pretty ordinary. I grew up in the Midwest in the 60s and 70s, and I was interested in science fiction, eyes to the sky, had my own telescope. I was interested in astronomy and also in the NASA space shots of that day, the Mercury, Gemini, Apollo programs, etc. So my eyes were always on the sky, and my joy was there. It was just wonderful to look out and see the universe out there. Somewhere along the way, when I was 10 or 11, I found a book about UFOs, written by one of the contactees of the 50s and 60s, because there was a contact movement going on at that time,
Yeah,
and people were writing
Dansky
books.
and all
It's
those
nothing like
guys.
today, where oh yeah, um, but I was sitting right there. Saw the pictures of the classic disc-shaped objects, with the domes. And this is before CGI and AI and all that. So people really had to try hard to fake pictures like that. There were probably a few fakes around, but the real ones that I saw in the book that I picked up, I was smitten, and it planted a seed. But I went on to have a normal life, and that's what I like to emphasize, is that again, everyday people can do this. Um, in 2006, I discovered Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, which is human initiated connection and contact and communication with star people, which can be done individually or in a group. And my life was never the same, man, after that week that I was with a group of 40 people learning how to do CE5 protocols and making the contact and having experiences. I had 3 experiences during those 6 days just north of where I live. I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area. And I was with that group up in Mount Shasta, which is in Northern California, a really magical, wonderful, active place for a lot of paranormal things going on up there, not the least of which is star people, UFO, UAP, whatever you want to call it. So that week up in Mount Shasta, I had those 3 experiences, and I probably talked about one or more of those the last time we were together, and I can revisit that, if you want. But that week changed my life because there's nothing like having at least one, and I had 3 up close and personal contact experiences that changes your life. You can either, I say, you can either take something like that and hold it inside, and there's good reason to do that because for many people in the past and even in the present, they cannot talk about this topic or talk about contact experiences with star people because their partner won't understand, maybe their boss won't, their family won't, etc. And so it's been common for a lot of people to hold it in. Well, when it happened to me, I couldn't hold it in because I was used to being an activist in the 60s and 70s. Before we had an internet, being anti-war activist, civil rights and all that, it was in my blood to want to stand on a rooftop when I discovered something really cool, like contact with star people, and to tell the world. And it didn't matter to me who listened or wanted to debate or whatever. It's like, this is my story. You can believe it or you can walk away. If you believe it, well, come to the website that I have built and you can learn how to do what I did because I'm nobody special and you can have your own experiences. So that in a nutshell is what got me to where I am now. And I just keep doing more and more of this contact and building a global community that I've been building since actually 2006. So I'm going on 19, 20 years now of being involved in this, most exciting topic.
That's awesome. How many people are now in the community?
By my count, and I know this is an undercount, as I survey all the groups online on the different platforms, I am sure there's more than 1 million people who are into
Say that
this
again. There was
people's
a little
disclosure
cutout. How many
area.
people?
Um, I conservatively estimate more than 1 million people,
Wow, that's
and I think
amazing.
there's much more because, well, and this is the people's disclosure movement. It's not all people like on my mailing list, but if you look out there, uh, shows like the History Channel, Ancient Aliens, and so much more that's been happening, including an increase in UFO activity, has just exploded in the last 10, 20, 30 years. So that there are many more open-minded people out there. And that's why I say in the big umbrella, the people's disclosure movement, where we the people have had some kind of experience, there's easily more than 1 million around the world. And I have, by some counts, reason to believe there's tens and tens of million people who are open to this topic. And it's the kind of thing where you don't know unless you go searching for it. And then you can realize and see the big picture, just how widespread this is. And I can talk more about how it got that way because it's been a deliberate effort on the part of our star friends to engage us a lot more and talk to us and show themselves a lot more so that we can get excited and build our global movement, the people's disclosure movement.
Yeah, no, let's talk about that. What has been the evolution in your contacts with the beings, and yeah, tell us about that.
I can only talk about what I've experienced. I think other people who are activists in this field have their own origin stories that causes them to write a book, be a speaker at a seminar, make a documentary. There are a lot of people active. And I could talk about the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance, which is Hollywood people who are focused on the UFO UAP topic in a while. I can talk about that. I'm a member of that. But for
Me too.
myself, after my three different experiences that I mentioned previously that opened me up and made me want to talk more about this and teach people how to do what I had just learned how to do, make communication. Um, I did that for 4 years. And then until 2010, um, I had telepathic contact through one of my team members who's in touch more easily with star people than I am. I'm I'm a telepathic as well, and I do get messages from them, which I will relate some of them a little bit later here for your audience. But 2010 was a big change for the People's Disclosure Movement. It's when it was founded, when I really got the big picture. Why is that? Because our star friends told me when I asked them at that time, I think it was maybe September 2010, I asked them, what more can I do to help you guys with your plans? It's above my pay grade. I don't see the 20,000 foot level, but I know that you need humans here to also be active for the plans that you have in contacting us and moving forward with full open contact. So I asked, what can I do? And they told me three things just very clearly. They said, create as many contact teams as possible in as many places as possible, as quickly as possible. That was really easy. I go, okay, I've got the internet at my hands, and I'm used to being an activist, and I'll start creating teams and kind of throw a stone into the pond there and watch the ripples go out. And I said, how does that work? Why are you asking me to do that? And this is just to do my part. I'm not saying I'm the only one that did this, but again, this is just my story. They said, as more humans contact us and want to see us, that gives us, from human free will, more permission to literally appear in more cities and show ourselves. And when that happens, more humans will see us and want more from us. And that gives us more permission to be seen in even more cities, where more humans will see us, more permission, more cities, more humans. They called this a virtuous circle, an organic growth of the People's Disclosure Movement. And I said, okay, that makes sense. It's going to be networks within networks within networks of people, the way that the internet is. It's all over the place, right? You can't destroy one node in a network because it'll rewire itself, right? It's like whack-a-mole. And that's the safety in our People's Disclosure Movement. If any particular person or a node goes down, or a server, there's thousands of groups out there, and like the internet, it's still alive and it's still thriving, and it's going to survive. So it's a wonderful thing. I asked my star friends, okay, we're going to build this organic movement. What's the end game for it? And they said that a certain point would come if we did our practice and made contact with them and grew our groups. A certain point would come, a tipping point, where so many people believed in them and wanted further communication that moving forward from the tipping point, it would be like a snowball rolling downhill that cannot be stopped. It would be game over for any government or institution of authority to cover up their presence like they've done for 80-ish years already, and told us we're crazy and killed people and sent out disinfo, ruined careers, had people committed. That's the past. But from this tipping point onward, because we, the people, made our own direct contact, not through a government or another institution, that's the power of it. Moving forward, the future would belong to us, and there would be no institution ever again that could cover up the star people's presence, because we, the people, had done it. And they called that a people's disclosure, not a government disclosure. And I know a lot of people in the UFO field, it's a big topic. Just mention the word disclosure, and we'll talk a little bit more about the age of disclosure and Steven Spielberg's new Disclosure Day coming, because that is still a hot topic. And there's a path where people are trying to push governments in a very legitimate way. And I'm working with some of them through legislatures and through making announcements. But it's been 80 years and that hasn't happened yet. If people are still waiting for a president or a premier or a pope or someone to stand behind a podium and have a press conference, right, and just say, okay, we've been covering it up for 80 years. You all were right to believe that they're here, and sorry about that. Um, that may yet happen, but the thing about the People's Disclosure Movement that the STAR people were really emphasizing starting in 2010 is that we can't wait for that to happen, for the officials to do that, because they haven't proven that they can really be trusted with the truth, because they've been hiding it from us, right? Covering it up. So we took it into our own hands, People's Disclosure. And I go, okay, that makes sense. That's a grassroots movement, like so many movements throughout human history that have changed things, where the people at the top didn't want them changed. So in 2020, I checked back with my star friends and said, okay, it's been like 10 years since you originally gave us these instructions to form all these contact teams all over in order to reach a tipping point. Back then, you couldn't tell me when that tipping point would be, even though I did ask, um, because either you didn't know because it depended on our activity as humans, or it was above our pay grade. Anyway, in 2020, I said, when are we going to reach the tipping point? How close are we? And their response was, oh, we reached it last year in 2019. We are in it right now. We are in the wave of the future. And we, the experiencers, which is what we call ourselves, the contact, we're in charge of the future now because we're just continuing to grow the movement and we're that snowball that can't be stopped. And I'll tell you what, my star friends said that our movement has exceeded every expectation they had of it. So we rocked it. And I want to tell everyone out there who's been part of this, pat yourselves on the back. We still have a lot of work to do, but the momentum is with us and we're pushing it.
No, I love it. And everything you say tracks with how the phenomenon seems to have been behaving. It wants people to get it on film, certain people especially. It
Mhm.
allows to get on film, and the more you get it on film, the more it'll let you get it on film. That's what some of the information suggests, and some of the experiencers are experiencing and documenting and getting these videos out there. And people will be summoned from within their homes to go out and film these things. The phenomenon wants this, bottom up, grassroots, organic disclosure rather than the top down official disclosure, which, we can hold our breath and wait for that to happen. And we do need some version of that ultimately because we do need these black programs that have been doing shady things
Yeah,
exposed, and we need public oversight of these programs that have been doing shady things for so long. And if they have deals with beings and are assisting in abductions and so on, obviously that either needs to end or, so something needs to change, right?
yeah,
We can't allow the shady stuff that's been happening. So, but we may never get there until we have this organic grassroots bottom up disclosure that has reached, a tipping point in terms of, political will or whatever, to get us there. And if the phenomenon is more overt or is given permission, as you say, to be more overt, that could kind of force the issue.
yeah.
So, all the stuff is very important. Well, what is the ultimate goal? I mean, what do you think the beings want when we have, total open disclosure? Do they want us to join the Galactic Federation or, something like, what's your take
Yeah.
on that?
Yeah, well, I can answer that question because it's a great question. It's on everybody's mind. Like, okay, this is great now. Uh, what's going to come of it, right? Again, what's an end game? I have some messages from the star people that I think will give some flavor of their answer, their perspective. And let me bring these
Yeah,
up
yeah, let's
here.
get into your communications.
Yeah. Well, in particular, and I, by the way, I apologize. I can see that the lighting isn't that great on the this thing. I'm not a master at lighting.
Hey, yours is better than mine.
No, it isn't. You look fabulous. I'm kind of disappearing. No, I'm not really dematerializing, folks. It's a lighting thing, but um, I can do right now, and I'm happy to do it. Um, what the latest messages I've gotten messages throughout the years that are kind of universal and important. That time does not lessen their importance, whether I got them 10 years ago or just last week. But speaking of last week, the Spielberg movie that's coming in June, I think it's going to drop June 12th, is the last I heard, called Disclosure Day, holds a lot of promise for opening a lot more minds and educating people globally uh, about UFO, UAP. And I asked my star friends what were some of the messages that I could relate to the community that could be keyed to that movie. Because please understand, this is Spielberg, right? And yes, he's done other things like Close Encounters of the Third Kind. He's done E.T., which have done a tremendous amount of good in exposing people in a theatrical, nice story kind of way, as only he can do because he's a master storyteller, which has aided our movement over the years. And I think this upcoming movie, Disclosure Day, is really hitting this topic that's on everybody's minds, at least in the UFO community and in larger communities now. People know the word disclosure. Well, I don't know what is going to say with this movie. The trailer's a little bit kind of even looks a little bit scary. Car chase scene, maybe Men in Black, but
Yeah, I was worried about that whole threat narrative thing.
I understand, and I was too when I looked at it. And two things I understand is he knows how to get your interest, so he gets these fast jumps, scenes of things that don't seem to go together, and you're going, "What's he doing?" He's just moving along in this tense kind of music. Men in Black, car chase scene. There is that element, like you were talking, Jack, about the cover-up. There have been corporations and people above government levels who have hid this for years. And as you say, that has to come to light. Those people are present and have been, and they're responsible for the cover-up that we've all been complaining about. I think that his movie is going to have an element of that because there's no way he can, in my opinion, and not pay attention to that because that is our history. It's where we've come from with this topic, from these elites who have kept the reverse engineering to themselves and have covered it up. However, I believe that, like his other movies, that he's going to take us on a trajectory where he reveals the presence of the star beings, like they're here, right? And how he's going to take it in a narrative kind of way, I'm not sure. But based on his previous movies, Close Encounters, E.T., I think there will be an inspiring ending of communication and of connection. So with that kind of thought in mind, I approached my star friends, again, our telepathic contact we have with them. And I asked them, what are the messages you would like me to convey to your listeners, Jack, and to other places where I talk about this regarding that movie, Disclosure Day, and where we are right now. So right away, when I asked that, what do you want me to convey? They said, we're here, we're clear, get used to it. And in other times, and recently I've gotten messages that are, keep your eyes and heart on us. Your planet is in peril. We are here to help. Trust that we have humanity's highest welfare at heart. We are many races from many cosmic places. We are an association. And this is me talking. Think confederation, think galactic, club, whatever the word is. There likely are hundreds, if not thousands, of them working together. And they also have said, be prepared to tell your experiences. And this is something I like to talk about because, for example, Spielberg's movie, I think in the first 7, maybe 10 days, got 30 million views and maybe up to 33 million now. Who does that? Who is able to do that? Very few filmmakers have that kind of reputation and that kind of reach and that kind of anticipation for what they're going to produce. So when I saw that 30 million number, I go, holy cow, what an opportunity. And that's, again, another reason why I approached my star friends and said and asked, what can we do to align with the opening of minds that are going to be happening this summer? We want to help this along, help the big project along that you star beings are doing. And that's when they said, be prepared to tell your stories, because they said there would be a 2-phase reaction to that movie. The first phase will be to disturb people in terms of the cover-up that's been going on. I believe a lot of people will be angry. Um, some like us who already know kind of what's been going on these last 80 years won't be as surprised to whatever extent Spielberg decides to reveal what's going on. Other people, it'll be new information. And they'll say, holy cow, is that where our billions of dollars have gone to? Dark programs, cover-ups, reverse engineering, shooting down craft. And again, I don't know if he's going to hit all those specifically. He may not. But I believe he will allude to the fact that there have been forces keeping this knowledge from us that we're being visited and interacted with. Some people will be angry. There may be some, I like to say, a kerfuffle. Um, and there will be people who try to play that down and say, "Ah, that's just fiction. He's making it up. Don't listen to that. Don't listen to that man behind the curtain," to use a Wizard of Oz reference. It's just a story. It's fiction. I'm told by the Star people that the effort to downplay him revealing however he's going to reveal what he's going to reveal about the cover-up, those who try to downplay it, neutralize it, will fail. So that cat's going to be out of that bag. The second phase of reaction is where we come in. Jack, you and I, your audience, whoever wants to participate, and so many people in our network. They said that in the second phase of reaction, they called it a wider, deeper recognition. And what that means is that this will sink into people like, oh my God, this is for real, and suddenly those of us who've been talking about this for years to family and friends and coworkers, or maybe not talking, that we may be approached by people whose minds have suddenly become opened, who ask us now, well, what do you think? I thought you were crazy, but, tell me your story again. And the Star People's told us that's our opportunity that they're right there to, as an experiencer community, to tell our stories. We don't need to convince people like in a debate, hey, watch this video, listen to this speaker, read this book. Although that's all legitimate. You can provide all that. But the most power that we're going to have will be our personal story. When someone looks you in the eye who thought you were crazy, but now they're kind of like, okay, tell me more. That's our opportunity writ large to tell our story in our authentic way. And then at that point, they can either believe it anew or just walk away again. We're not trying to convince anybody, but they may look us in the eye and say, holy cow, point me to more. And that's where you can say like, okay, go see this video, go listen to this guy or this woman, buy this book, check out this, YouTube, whatever. We can follow on with that. But the power is really going to be experiencers telling our story. And so at etletstalk.com, we're preparing a place at that time for experiencers to come and write to us, whatever their stories are. If they suddenly want to open up, we want to feature those on our website and create like an experiencer central area where people can tell their stories. And those who are like experiencer curious can come to the website and learn the CE5 protocols so they can launch themselves on doing their own contact. Because the whole idea here is grow the movement. Those of us who've had the experience are now going to speak more about it. And we're going to bring in more people to the fold who want to learn how to do what we have done, do the human initiated contact, not just the passive ones, which are Close Encounters 1 through 4. So that's it really in a nutshell about the messages. They're very positive messages. They want to mentor us. Years ago, when I first contacted them, they said, don't look on us as gods. How does that work for humans in creating religions? There's a lot of beauty in some of that, and then there's a lot of really dark history. They don't want another religion around them. They basically said, we're family. Think of us as elder brothers, sisters, and cousins. And I like that, because if I suddenly, for example, discover someone in Europe that I didn't know was part of my family tree, right? And I communicate with them and I find out they're a little bit smarter, a little more developed, a little bit more culture, whatever, than I am, and they're willing to share what they have, why wouldn't I want to communicate with them? and to be mentored maybe and to co-create with them something new. And that's the opportunity we have that the star beings are offering us. They basically said, think of us as family. They want to create a golden age with us. They said they have technology, scientific, medical technologies that are going to help us solve a lot of problems. So my main message here is we have a lot of cosmic help. It's easy to concentrate because the mass media gives us a lot of negative news to look at the horrible situation that the world is in, how close we are to the precipice of destruction. But we have to realize we're not alone. In our many, many millions, we're not alone here on Earth, and we're not alone in the skies, because there are millions of them here, and they're counting on us, and they need us to at least make our effort to meet them halfway. They're just not going to wave a magic wand and solve all our problems for us. We have to go through that, but we have, again, some mentorship. They may come from civilizations that have been through what we went through, maybe nearly destroyed themselves, and then yet they found a way to have a breakthrough, which we're looking for, rather than a breakdown. And so they went to the stars after they had their breakthrough. And so they have advice to offer. You know, they won't do it for us, but they can do it with us. And that's what I'm looking forward to. 0 point energy, um, a world of justice, peace. Not overnight, I'm going to have to work for it, but that's what I want to leave with your listeners here is the idea like, let's look at the glass half full and realize we have, yes, a lot more peril than we've ever faced, but we have a lot more help. Love is greater than hate, than we ever imagined, here on Earth and from the stars. So
No,
that's the end game. It's a golden age, full open contact, probably coming in phases. And I don't know the timing. There are different people out there talking about how they're approaching us now. But what I want to say, Jack, you just mentioned like you've noticed an increase in activity, right?
yeah.
So yeah, and there are people who are tabulating how many more sightings there are with tables and graphs and all that, and therein lies the hope of the future. We're at the most incredible cosmic moment of our of our history on Earth here, where we're meeting not just one but so many civilizations from elsewhere that want to interact with us, and eventually they want us to join this federation, their association, and you know what? We will then become UFOs to other planets. We'll be the ones that are in that position and offering what we have to help the evolution along of somebody who's fumbling around and trying to get it right on some other world in some other future time.
Well, I love it, Costa. That's just awesome. Bring on the med beds. We could all use a med bed.
A med
That,
bed.
that'd be great. And I want my own UFO already. I want to go into space. Give me a Wookiee. I want to go have some adventures out there. Yeah, I love what you're doing with your website about how, you're inspired or you're hoping there's going to be this response to Spielberg's movie, and you're encouraging people to share their stories, experiencers and people that are curious about experiences, because this is something I've been talking about for a while with some buddies of mine, that there needs to be a place where experiencers can go to compare notes and that sort of thing, and where others can go and get information about this sort of thing. And I think that'd be a great service to provide, and hopefully you'll get a lot of traction on that, because I think that could be a really valuable thing. It's really interesting that the Spielberg movie is coming out when it is, or at least there's a rumor going around right now. I think there's a British filmmaker, a UFO filmmaker. I'm hoping I'm going to get his name right, Mark Christopher Lee, something like that, who has said that his sources say that President Trump is going to give a UFO disclosure speech like June 8th or something, just a few days before Spielberg's movie comes out. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. I tend to doubt it. I don't think we're there yet. But it's an interesting rumor that kind of lines up with that date. Have you heard that rumor about that this British
I've read
filmmaker?
probably the headline. to that same rumor as well. And like you, I'm skeptical for a number of reasons, and I won't get into the politics of my personal beliefs why I'm skeptical. Um, but I could see, in my mind, a couple ways that could go wrong. Um, and again, I won't speak to those, but I would rather that we continue as a people's disclosure to disclose for ourselves. And I have to admit, I'm biased with that because I have watched promises come and go from governments about many things. And if you're going to hang your head on that, the risk I think is greater. It's not to say that a miracle could happen and maybe Trump could do that and it would be received in the best of possible ways in the best of possible worlds. I do believe in miracles. And that would be great if it went on a happy path, a total happy path like that. I just am skeptical that it will. Uh, I think there's other means that will be used by the star people to really make their presence way more universally known. And my personal belief is that why does disclosure always have been talked about in terms of a government has to do it or a president, you know, like what I said before? Why isn't it a movie? Why isn't it Disclosure Day? I mean, this is what he's calling it, Disclosure Day. You know, no, he's no idiot. He knows what the buzzwords are that will get the audiences to pay attention and buy a ticket and see the movie. But why wouldn't disclosure be through the media like that? Through a certain individual who has the power to reach a global audience like you and I don't have, who will open way more minds than some other politician who many people won't believe. And it doesn't, I'm not just talking about this country, but in general, governments and politicians, etc., to one degree or another, don't have 100% credibility with people. And that's why the People's Disclosure Movement was started, because we know, I know what I saw. No one can talk me out of it. And I've had experiences for years. You have, many people I know have. And so we're dealing in an ecosystem where we believe each other. We're not relying on, well, now the government's saying they're here. Well, how much am I to believe? What are their motives? What are their intentions? Why are they doing it now? Why are they doing it this way? You know, that's the kind of questions that would come up. I would be skeptical. What are their motivations? Because those motivations haven't been that good for 80 years. Why are they suddenly changing? I don't know. Again, I'm hopeful for a total happy path. I'll take it. But if I don't see that, you and me, we're the power, and our friends, and everyone listening here, and your friends, we're the real power that we can trust. We're crowdsourcing, right? We're crowdsourcing disclosure. We achieved it in 2019. You know, take a victory lap, tap yourselves on the back, make the t-shirts, fly the flags. People's Disclosure 2019. We're that snowball that can't be stopped. If you've ever been in an avalanche, and fortunately neither have I haven't, but those are fairly unstoppable by any human means. And it's a positive thing for us now. We're on the right side of history right now, and not only right on the history, but we're creating it. We're creating the future. We're part of it right now, and it's such an honor uh, to be alive at this time in that way and to find our allies around us. Let me throw out another statistic that I think might be useful to your watchers out there. I think it was in 2016 there was a Dutch firm that does research analysis for corporate clients. You know, very serious, mathematically oriented analysis of markets for people who pay them money to find out, hey, who's my audience? How do I approach them? How do I sell to them, et cetera, et cetera. But one of the research topics that they did in 2015 and 16 was about extraterrestrial life. I don't know who sourced and paid them the money to do this, but I did see the results of their very scientific survey. They surveyed people from more than 20 countries who had internet access and who came from a lot of different cultural, political systems, so that the tens and tens of thousands of people that they surveyed as part of their poll for about extraterrestrial life were kind of representative of humanity, coming from, you know, many different places and belief systems. But the topic was lots of questions they asked about extraterrestrial life. And I won't go into the details of their whole survey, but two questions really stuck out that are relevant to what you and I are doing and in our movement. The first question they asked, I'm not the first question, but one of the questions of the two was, do you believe that extraterrestrial life exists out there that's intelligent, not as some little microbe under a rock under some star 100 light years away that we detected through spectral analysis or something? No, but that intelligent life exists out there. And I believe that 40% ish of their respondents said yes. And then of those 40%, they asked a follow up question, which was, well, do you believe that we should contact and interact with this life? And that's CE5 right there. 60% ish of that initial 40% said yes to that. So right there, you have a demographic, a cohort of people like you and me who believe it's intelligent, the life out there, and that we need to communicate. This is as forward-looking a position as you can imagine, right? You know, in a very positive, open, welcoming way. I took the results of their research and I tried to apply it to the population of Earth as whole, so that I could get a picture that outside of their little research study, what those statistics that they presented, what those look like on a global scale. How many humans do do answers to those two questions? How many humans does that represent? And because I have a mathematics background, I put it to use and use my formulas and my research on the net and all that. I came up with a figure of 1.3 billion people, maybe one out of six, seven people on the planet can answer yes to those questions, who are our natural allies. Now, that's a people's disclosure movement on a scale I never imagined. But here's the thing. A lot of those people are looking for their next meal. They're not looking at the skies. They're not doing CE5. They're in war-torn areas. What those numbers really reveal is that their consciousness is open to this. It doesn't mean that they have the time, the money, the ability, the safety to be sitting in their backyards and making contact and doing a lot of fun things like that. No, it doesn't mean all that. It just means they're open on some kind of level if those numbers and that research is to be believed. So we're not really alone again. We're not alone on Earth. There's so many millions more that think like us. And I really believe that that's why Spielberg's movie, to circle back to that, will be able to reach some of that 1.3 billion in a way that you and I can't. And it will hopefully touch them in the right way, that they walk away from that movie with their mind even more open and start doing their own research and approach people like you and me and those in our audience to ask us, well, what do you think?
No, no,
That's how I see the possibilities of things laying out. I don't know if I'm right, but I've been at this 19 years, and um, I have my biases, my research, the results that I've seen. There are thousands of people who've taken videos, had personal experiences. They've been healed by contact with star people. I could go on and on. It's a thing.
I've had my own healing. I don't know if it was the star people or something more spiritual or metaphysical, but yeah, that stuff is very possible. And it's really interesting about Spielberg's movie because it's not in isolation. There's another one coming. I think it's a Jerry Bruckheimer movie that's where he actually, or somebody in his camp actually hired David Grush as a consultant
Yeah.
for their, again, I assume that's some sort of UFO disclosure-ish kind of movie. Maybe it's probably not going to, copy Spielberg's movie in that way, but it's going to be something along those lines. That's the theme of it. So we don't have much information about it other than that, but I'm very excited that we have multiple competing movies that are hopefully UFO disclosure themed. And, with the David Grush being involved, you can hope that it's going to be a realistic depiction of the ins and outs of some of this stuff. And that's very exciting to me that we're living in an age where we do have multiple competing UFO big budget movies that's going to hit the public consciousness, is what I'm saying. And that's going to make an impact. And places like, your website and what you're doing, I think are going to start getting more important. More people are going to gravitate to that.
I hope so.
And yeah, I hope so too. I hope so too. I think that's great. And more people are going to be doing C5 and interacting with the phenomenon and leading us into this golden age, where we all get a Wookiee and a Millennium Falcon.
You really want those Wookiees. They
I
are cute.
want a Wookiee. Oh,
Yeah, really. I'll even learn their language. I'm open to it.
right.
Speaking of the upcoming movie, I've read probably as much as you have, which is not a whole lot, but because Grush is involved, he's come up from the top secret intelligence area, right? Uh, as kind of a whistleblower, and those like him, because he's a consultant. My guess is that that movie with him consulting will be oriented more towards the cover up and
I'm
the
expecting that to be more of a conspiracy kind of thriller,
yeah, except it won't be conspiracy because
Right.
if you give Grush any credibility, and there are more whistleblowers like him, yeah, if you give them any credibility, what he's going to be revealing is like, oh, this is how this crap has worked. This is how they did the cover up. These are the programs behind the reverse engineering, shooting down ET craft and all that. I don't know where it's going to go, but just his presence speaks to that corner. I don't think that movie's going to come out and say, hey, I'm an experiencer. That's not the focus. And I will say that The Age of Disclosure, the other documentary by Boyma,
Dan Farah.
Dan Farah, right? I saw that, had a premiere in Danny Sheehan's New Paradigm Institute in Santa Cruz
Nice.
not too long ago, a packed house. And here's my take on that. Addressing your point of saying, look at all these disclosure movies, right? Well, that one started the thing, Age of Disclosure, before Spielberg's, which hasn't dropped yet. But Age of Disclosure also is having its effect, but in a different way. That was meant to be a documentary featuring all these people with medals and titles and roles that they played in the intelligence area, military area, government. 34 witnesses, high production values, very well done. Even though there's a lot of talking heads, very well done. You don't get bored. You move through very easily, but you walk away realizing it's all about threat, threat, threat. Be afraid, be afraid, be afraid. We're not sure what it is. It's not ours. It's not theirs. It's from somewhere else. We're not sure exactly what it is, but our job, and I understand this, where they're all coming from, those 34 people, is national security. The military people are trying to look at the world through a threat, through the lens of a threat. What do I see out there? And if I see something, how do I defend against it? And let me get intelligence on it. And if I don't know something about it, I better learn something. So there's always that aura of fear of the unknown. And when that's your job, then you're on the age of disclosure with those 34 people talking about that. But here's the thing, you walk away from listening to all of them, and I don't know if someone is a skeptic who's out there and says, none of this is real. I challenge them to listen to all these people with highly placed credentials, whether you like the fact that they're all talking about fear and threat and national security, the dark side of what they don't know. But just look at the fact that are all 34 of them lying? Because they come off in that documentary as saying, oh, this is real. There's something going on. It's not ours. It's not theirs. Um, there are bodies. There are craft that have been shut down. There's reverse engineering programs. And they each have their own perspective on it. But I'm just saying in the accumulation of all their credibility and what they say and their belief that this is a real thing, and they're not just pushing it away and saying, you're all nuts, squirrel, go pay attention to something else over there. So that movie's going to have an impact for people who need to hear from official sources, even if it's a negative kind of thing, the fear. But all those sources can't all be lying, can't all be conspiring, because they come from so many different directions. So that has prepared the way, is what I'm saying. That shows the side of the how the people who've been covering this up look at it, which is it's a threat. Let me shoot at it first and see if I can figure out how it works so I can make a better weapon. Sadly, that's what human beings do. And now Spielberg's going to come along, having his perspective, and again, Grush and the other filmmaker, I forgot his name, are going to provide. So three disclosure movies, probably all within a couple years. And I'm not saying that there haven't been other documentaries that other people have done, good people, but all in 1 year to have, well, the third one won't be happening this year, but I'm just saying that it seems to have ramped up and the audiences have gotten wider. It's not just a documentary that gets a few thousand views on YouTube, even if you have great information and it's really well done. Suddenly the level has been lifted, and people with a larger audience than, again, you and I have, are talking about the things we've been talking about.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
in essence, that's our voice, coming out through them and helping us out.
I love it. Well, is there anything that we haven't talked about that we should talk about?
Oh, so much. I like the fact you brought up the healing, because uh, even today, there's still a lot of negative stories about abductions and all that, and people don't focus. And I don't think those are going on the way they had been. And there were people who will say that it was our own people, military, doing that and faking them. Um, and there may be an element where people were taken aboard, and I know people that have been, and just because they didn't, they were afraid, even though they weren't harmed, because it was so strange and unexpected, right? And that can be jarring in its own way. But I would ask people to focus on the positive part of where this can go. You mentioned the med beds, getting your own Wookiee, 0 point energy. I mean, I look at the positive effect of this, and that's why I encourage people to get involved, uh, because our star friends have said we want to be perceived that way. I'll tell you a quick story. Speaking of being perceived, I mentioned earlier that in one of my original connections with them, they told us that their family, their elder brothers, sisters, and cousins. Well, shortly after receiving that message from them, I found myself, I'm here in Northern California, driving to the state capital, the Sacramento area, from the San Francisco Bay Area, on Highway 80. I was going up there to meet my wife, who was in the Sacramento area on business. So I'm alone, and it's probably Saturday morning, early, not much traffic on the highway. And I'm in the left-hand lane of Highway 80, heading towards Sacramento. Um, and I'm doing 80 miles an hour. Yeah, I'm speeding, but not much traffic can do that. And I get into a zone as I'm just driving, because it's about an hour and 40 minutes to get there. And there's a lot of open stretch there where, again, there's not much traffic. So you can be in the fast lane and you can zone out. Not a good thing, but I think we all do it when we drive. So I'm in that zone doing 80 alone, not much traffic, no danger to me. And my mind is thinking back to the messages I'd gotten from my star friends, that they had given me about elder brothers, sisters, and cousins, just going over that stuff. And then all of a sudden, in the lane to my right, in my peripheral vision, this semi-trailer truck comes roaring past me. I don't know how fast he was going. It was probably a he. But I'm doing 80. And this startled me and broke me up out of my reverie. Suddenly I'm like wide awake going, oh crap, what was that? And he's gone. So I'm fully alert by now, and I realize, like, who's been driving this car? I've been on automatic. Oh well, I'm still okay. And this guy just woke me up. A second or two later comes another semi behind this one, a lot slower. In fact, so much slower. And I don't mean slow. I mean, I'm 80, so maybe he's doing 85, so that he just passes me little by little by little until, and again, he's in the right lane to my right. I see the back of his trailer as he's pulling away, just the back of the box there, big full on semi. And written on the back of that box in huge, like block letters, the way that you might go up to a car windshield that's dirty. I don't know if you ever did this as a kid. Someone's dirty windshield that's parked, there's no one around, you put your finger there and you write, wash me in letters, and you run away and you think you're really cool. Well, in letters just like that, probably in the dirt on the back of this semi, huge letters, I had no trouble reading them as this thing is pulling away. It said, ETs are family. And then the trailer was sped away and was gone.
That's
Now you
wild.
explain to me what that was about. I mean, I
Yeah,
know
wow. Wow.
it's
That's
like,
crazy.
yeah, if you want to believe that the truck driver had stopped at a truck stop some ways back, got out of his cab, had his break, and decided to be funny and write that on his truck, produce that himself, just to mess with somebody like me on the road, right? Okay, you can try to believe that. I think the odds are better that that was a genuine message coming on the message that I had gotten telepathically through my team, that they're family, and there it is showing up on the back of it. I'm going to believe that rather than some truck
No, no,
driver.
absolutely. I mean, that's the synchronicity or whatever. That's the universe, telling you something.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. I believe that too.
yeah, and
Uh,
I'm taking that to the bank, and that's what I want to leave with everybody is let's focus on the family part. We've got help on a scale that we cannot imagine. But if we go out and make our C5 contact, even in our little ways, people like yourself can get a healing. People I know have gotten a healing, have gotten cool messages. People I know have been taken aboard craft, um, and on and on and on. So focus on the positive aspect of what this can mean for you personally and for humanity and the survival of our beautiful planet as a whole.
well, thank you so much for joining us today, Costa. I really appreciate that. Everybody go check out etletstalk.com. Go find Costa. Participate in a C5 if you can. That's coming Saturday. And where else can people find you?
I'm also on Facebook. I'm not a big fan of Facebook, but much of my community finds me there. There's a, excuse me, a group that's if you look for CE5 UFO Sirius, SIRIUS, put that in a search. My group should come up, and you can just ask to join there. Supply a little comment why you're interested in the group, because we like to bring in people who generally have an interest, or rather than want to talk about other things and spam people. No, we don't like that. No group likes that. But come to that group there, and you'll find the community there. But mostly, please get on my mailing list on etletstalk.com. It's free, and what you'll get are my monthly newsletters about our contact events, interviews with other people, free webinars, articles about great movies like Spielberg's coming out, just a host of things that I try to provide to people to stay informed and keep us all inspired and educated. Again, we're crowdsourcing this. So yeah, please come to etletstalk.com.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Costa. I really appreciated it. I thought that was just awesome.
Thank you so much, Jack. I appreciate the opportunity.